It is now our great honor to invite most respectful Swapnil Kothari, educationist, founder, chairman, and managing director, Indore Indira Group of Institutions, Renaissance College of Commerce and Management from Indore, India.
My humble pranam in lotus feet of Swamiji, honorable members of the World Peace Council, thinkers and scholars from all around the world, my elder brother, Mr. Oja, and my dear brothers and sisters. I'm Swapnil Kothari. I'm from India. I'm a chartered accountant by qualification, educationist by heart, and a teacher by profession. Around 2 months back, I received invitation from World Peace Council, and I was very happy to receive invitation. The guy who called me happens to be my friend. So I asked him, I was part of last year's conference in Vienna, and I spoke on spiritualism and inner peace. So what's going to be my topic for this conference? The guy, my friend, replied that there has been little change in the structure this time. I said, why there has been a little change in the structure this time? He said that there has been little change in the structure this time. Your topic depends on the fact whether you are married or whether you are unmarried. I was a little surprised. I said, I did not get this. He said, your topic of the conference, the topic on which you have to speak, depends on whether you're married or whether you're unmarried. If you're unmarried, you can speak on happiness. If you're unmarried, you can speak on joy. If you're unmarried, you can speak on liberty. If you're unmarried, you can speak on freedom. If you're unmarried, you can speak on colors of life. I said, excuse me, I'm married and my wife is accompanying me. So he said, oh, you're married, so you have a lesser choice. I said, what are the topics available for me? I'm married. He said, if you're married, you can speak on patience. If you're married, you can speak on tolerance. If you're married, you can speak on endurance. If you're married, you can speak on perseverance. If you're married, you can speak on non-violence and non-violent protests. And if you're married, you can speak on eternal search for peace. Ladies and gentlemen, I was just wanting to begin in a lighter manner. Then in mid of November, I shared this good news with my friend that I'm going to address World Peace Council Conference on Non-Violence. Now he happens to be my childhood friend and he knows me in and out. He just looked at me and said, are you sure you're doing this? I said, yes. He said, are you serious? You're going to speak on non-violence? I said, yes. He said, how can you do this? I mean, have you forgotten our old school days? Have you forgotten our old school gang of spoiled brats? Have you forgotten our old school elections? I mean, all our gang members, we had such a firm belief in violence. Now, how can you speak on non-violence? I said, last few years, I have learned and I have taught and I have read a lot of books and I have grown and I have evolved. So last few years, I have changed. And now I want to enter into politics. And I want to enter into politics with this mantra of non-violence. Now, he was not listening to me. He said that you want to enter into politics with this mantra of non-violence? Right? You will fail miserably because this world needs aggressive leaders. This world needs burning orators who can emit fire. This world needs mass mobilizers who can destabilize governments. Nobody needs ambassadors of non-violence. I mean, if you enter into politics with this philosophy of non-violence, you are going to fail miserably. You are going to become a political joke. Swapnil, if you enter into politics with this mantra of non-violence, you are going to become a political joke. I said, I'm okay with becoming a political joke. You know, there's an advantage of becoming a political joke. These days, political jokes get elected. Who knows, if I become a political joke, one day I become one of the most powerful persons of the universe, right? So this is how I convinced my friend that I'm going to speak on nonviolence. Now, coming back to our topic of nonviolence and peace, to be very honest with all of you, initial stage of our life, we understand importance of nonviolence only when life puts us into situations where we cannot respond violently. But then, as life passes, and then when we have some experiences, then we understand importance of nonviolence. Now, I will have to speak something serious now because next time nobody would invite me to World Peace Council conference. To begin my speech, I just want to share 3 points, 3 aspects. First, all of us, throughout our lives, we strive to achieve a lot of objectives. And in order to achieve these objectives, we use means, instruments which help us in achieving our objectives. So our entire life swings between means and ends, means and objectives. Now, all of us are very clear as far as objectives are concerned. All of us are very clear as far as what we want. But means keep on changing. We do a lot of trial and error as far as means are concerned. Application of wisdom in selection of means is less. Emphasis on means is less. Focus on means is less. Objectives are very important. Ends are very important. But importance we give to means is less. And this is the fundamental reasons that a lot of questions keep on haunting society. Because all of us give more importance to ends, because all of us give less importance to means, a lot of fundamental questions haunt our society. Fundamental questions like, can wrong means lead to right ends? Fundamental questions like, can war lead to peace? Fundamental questions like, can I resort to violence in order to get justice? Fundamental questions like, can I use wrong means if my purpose is great for a greater cause? Can I resort to violence? Fundamental questions like, can I massacre a complete community in order to establish harmony in the rest of the world? Answer to all these questions is big no. Every second person on this earth who resorts to violence comes up with a logic that I am doing this for a greater cause. Mahatma Gandhi once said, there are a number of reasons for which I can give my life, but for no reason I can kill a person. So we will have to understand one thing, that purity of means is absolutely important. We will have to understand one thing, that we will have to give importance to means. We will have to understand one thing, that wrong means would always fetch wrong ends. We will have to understand basic fundamental, that it is means which become ends. It is means which gradually develop themselves into ends. It is seed which becomes plant or tree. It is our education, character and upbringing which fundamentally becomes our character. It is our knowledge and skills which fundamentally becomes our profession. What we choose today will manifest itself in some or other form tomorrow. So means finally becomes end, and wrong means would always fetch wrong ends. And hence, hatred would always breed hatred. Hence, violence would always breed violence. Hence, vindictiveness would always breed vindictiveness. Hence, any kind of negativity will always breed negativity. And it is only non-violence which will breed compassion, because non-violence originates from compassion, and compassion breeds compassion. Now, there will always be a section of people who would come up with this argument, that we have seen people who use violence, we have seen people who use wrong means, they make a lot of money. They acquire a lot of power. They acquire a lot of name and fame. And they rule for decades. And it seems that they are happy. And on the other hand, people who use right means, who use non-violence, who are truthful, who do not manipulate, they struggle throughout their life. They do not make money. They don't earn name and fame. And they struggle throughout their life, and it seems that they are not happy. So what's the point in using right means? What's the point in using non-violence? What's the point in not manipulating? Everybody who is manipulating seems to be happy, seems to be rich and powerful. And everybody who is using right means seems to be struggling. Now we need to understand one basic thing. What's happiness? What's happiness? Observe everyone around you. Everyone around you who uses right means. Everyone around you who uses non-violence. Everyone around you who is truthful has got a peaceful state of mind. And everyone around you who uses violence, everyone around you who uses wrong means, everyone around you who manipulates has got a disturbed state of mind. What's happiness? Happiness is peaceful state of mind. If you have peaceful state of mind, you live in present. And when you live in present, you are happy. And what's sadness and what's meaning of being unhappy? When you have disturbed state of mind, you are not able to live in present. You either live in past or you live in future. So everyone who resorts to right means, non-violence, being truthful, he has got peaceful state of mind and he is the most happy person on earth. Now last part of my discussion, because we are short of time. If you want to follow this path of non-violence, you need to have stamina. You actually need to have stamina and patience. And this reminds me of a very interesting story of stamina and patience. Around 1800 BC, there was a village. And in that village, a competition was organized in order to check stamina and patience. A brisk walk race was organized. And a lot of people participated in that brisk walk race. And competition was to check and test stamina and patience. A guy walked for around 30 miles in that race, brisk walk race. Another guy walked for around 25 miles in that brisk walk race. Another guy walked for around 23 miles in that brisk walk race. Another guy walked for around 22 miles in that brisk walk race. One short-hearted guy like me, he walked only for around 3 miles in that race. Only 3 miles. And he was declared winner of that competition. A guy walked only 3 miles and he was declared winner of that competition. Judges declared that this is winner of the race of stamina and patience. Now people asked, he walked only for 3 miles and all others have walked for 30 miles, 28 miles, 27 miles. What's so special about him? So judges said that this guy walked for 3 miles. He walked along with his wife and earphones were not there. So that's symbol of stamina and patience. So I just want to conclude by saying that if you want to follow path of non-violence, you need to have tremendous patience. You need to have unprecedented faith in this ideology of non-violence. Non-violence is like Ayurveda. It takes time, but it cures patient completely because it eliminates problem from root. Non-violence is like yoga. It heals your body from inside. Non-violence is like meditation. It nurtures your brain. Non-violence is like naturopathy. It detoxifies your thinking process. Non-violence is like Elam. Elam purifies water. Non-violence purifies your soul. And non-violence is perennial, like souls are perennial. It was relevant, it is relevant, and it will always remain relevant. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you very much. Most respected Swapnil Kotariji from Indore Indira Group from Indore, India.